On this episode, we do a thought experiment and ask, what if Ed was in charge of Thailand?
So if you want to hear 10 ways that I'd change Thailand if I was the boss, you'll dig this episode of the Bangkok Podcast.
Sawadee krap, and welcome to the Bangkok Podcast. My name is Greg Jorgensen, a Canadian who came to Thailand with a friend in 2001 to chew bubblegum and kick ass, only to find that bubblegum isn't really a thing here, and kicking ass seems really tiring.
That's a deep cut.
It is, yeah.
And I'm Ed Knuth, an American who came to Thailand on a one-year teaching contract 24 years ago, fell in love with all the different Thai words for noodle, so I never left.
Sort of like the Eskimo word for ice or snow or something like that.
That's right. Shout out to our buddy Stu J. Raj. He recently posted on Facebook a list of all the different types of Thai noodles and then the etymology related to them. So we got to get Stu on the show to maybe talk about that. There's a fascinating history to the construction of Thai words for noodles.
Yeah, I think I'd love to have him on to talk about that. Talking about Thai and food, I mean,
there you go.
Thai
you can't go wrong.
And Thai food.
You can't go
I
wrong.
still think the favorite thing to do when someone is eating some pad Thai or something, you'd be like, "So you support fascism, eh?"
That's right. It's a fascist
explain
dish.
The confused look on their face.
Funny, fascism is going to come up later on the show. So,
oh, sweet, can't wait. Good thing to talk about on a podcast.
That's right. All right, we want to give a big thanks to all of our patrons who support the show. Patrons get every episode a day early, behind-the-scenes photos of our interviews, a heads up to send questions to upcoming guests, and access to our Discord server to chat with me, Greg, and other listeners around the world. But best of all, patrons also get an unscripted, uncensored bonus episode every week where we riff on current events and Bangkok topics. On this week's bonus show, we chatted about special effects in movies and which ones hold up well and not well, which leads to a discussion on a project Greg is working on to provide props for a movie being filmed in Canada that includes a brief scene in Thailand, and a discussion on zoos in Thailand and how awful they are in general, except maybe Safari World, despite the common sentiment that Thais would be naturally sensitive to the welfare of animals. To learn how to become a patron and get all this good stuff, plus full access to over 700 bonus and regular back episodes, click the support button at the top of our website.
That's right. And as always, if you have a comment, a show idea, or just want to say hi, head to bangkokpodcast.com on the internets and click the little microphone button on the bottom right. Leave us a voicemail and we'll play it on the show. And also, before we get into it, something from the corrections department. Now, Ed, last week, or was it 2 weeks ago? I can't remember. Anyway, in a recent show, very recent show, I mentioned the two temples that I always tell visitors to hit in Bangkok.
Correct.
And I said, skip the Grand Palace because it's way too crowded. But I said, you have to visit Wat Sutat and Wat Benjabopit. But I was wrong. It is not Wat Benjabopit. It is Wat Ratchabopit.
Okay.
Which is totally different. Yeah.
So I actually don't think I've been there. So this is amazing that this temple that you highly recommend, I don't think I've been there.
Yeah, so Wat Benjabopit is the marble temple, but Wat Ratchabopit is the one that I really, really love. And it's a very uniquely designed temple with an architectural style. It's got a circular cloister or a courtyard.
Oh, cool.
And then the main ordination hall is unusually European in design. It's got like into the interior, which you usually can't go into. But yeah, it's just a really, really beautiful temple, and it's never, ever crowded. So just corrections department there. I said Benjabopit. I meant Ratchabopit, and I regret the error.
Gotcha.
All right. On this episode, we are going to give Ed what he has always dreamed of, unlimited power.
Yes.
At least hypothetically. Now, doing this podcast every week, we talk about a lot of things we'd like to see more of as well as less of. And that got us thinking, if we were in charge of Thailand and could wave a magic wand to change something, what would we do to change things to be more like how we wanted them to be? And of course, because this is Thailand, we're going to avoid some of the, contentious, politically tinged issues. And of course, none of this is meant as anything other than light criticism and is said with all love. Because just like anything, if you never point out its faults, how do you expect it to improve? So with that in mind, Ed has put his tyrannical brain to work coming up with 10 things that he would change if he was in charge of Thailand and nothing was holding him back from making changes. This is a pretty good idea, Ed. I like this one.
Yeah, I got plans, man. That's all I got to say. I got plans. I've been here 24 years. I haven't been wasting my time. I have dreams.
Well, the only reason I don't want to do the show is because now I've got to do a show called 10 Ways that Greg would improve Thailand. Now I got to come up with 10 things.
Yeah, that's right. And I'm probably I'm guessing that some of the things that I want to do, you would do. So I'm stealing some of your thunder.
All right, maybe I'll do 5 things that Greg would do. Anyway, let's get into it. What do you got?
Okay, so there, I was going to try to order these, but it was actually very difficult to order. So these are not in any particular order. I got my list in front of me. I'm just going to grab them, and then you can give me your feedback. Okay. Tell me what you think. Some of them, I
don't know this list. I've never seen this list before. So
that's right. Now, some of these you're going to totally understand. It's stuff that you and I have either talked about or it's been on the show. But some of these things might take you by surprise. Okay.
Okay.
So here's one that I think you will completely relate to. I would cap tourism numbers in certain locations that are environmentally sensitive. So we've done some shows on this, and we've talked about the way COVID was beneficial to certain places in Thailand. In other words, it allowed recovery. And we've talked about the Thai government's apparent obsession with tourist growth at all costs. And right. I as an amateur, I've never studied. There obviously you can get degrees in tourism. You can get degrees in obviously environmental studies. I'm an amateur. I just think that it makes sense that certain locations should just have limits on the number of tourists. What do you think?
No, I heartily 100% agree on this. And you're right. And during COVID, they did do this, like in Maya Bay. There was
Correct.
Just such degradation to the natural environment around there, the coral and the water and everything, that all the wildlife has disappeared. And I don't know if you've ever been on a snorkeling trip where you don't see any fish, but it ain't that fun.
That's right.
But they limited the number of tourists that come. And actually, didn't they completely shut it down for several months?
They shut it down for a while, and then it was very strictly limited for almost 2 years.
And lo and behold, things recovered very, very quickly and very successfully. So yeah, I think this is a great idea.
I admit it's a tricky problem. I'm not even though I am a lefty, I'm not a crazy lefty, like super environmental guy. I think you have to balance all interests. People need jobs. Sure. People need incomes. I'm a politics guy in the end. I'm all about deals. Let's make a deal. But I think that there has to be some balance. And I think in at least what I see, and because I'm the boss, that's the fantasy we're living in. So this is just my opinion through my eyes. I don't see much balance. I think it's just growth. And obviously there are Thai people and NGOs, and I'm sure the Thai government would say they care about protecting the environment. They would say that. But man, they just seem just all about pumping up the numbers. And so I would get a study group on this. I'd get some experts and I'd figure out. And the thing is, once you put a cap on the numbers, then the market's going to respond. So it would probably mean that if there were some of these beautiful islands, if you just said, hey, per month, we're only going to have so many tourists, then of course things might become a little bit more expensive, which is fine. Let the market respond. So it might not affect the revenue. In other words, if you cap it, then the prices might go up. So actually the revenue might stay the same for Thai businesses.
Okay, so less people, more revenue, or less people, higher price, but
same. It could be same revenue. I mean, you'd have to see how the market responds. So that's number one, not in order, but 1 out of 10. I like it. Let me give you one that might surprise you a little bit, but I'm a huge believer in this. I would build a massive modern prison system. Massive modern prison system. Yeah, I think.
What do you mean by modern?
Well, I think a big problem with the Thai prison system is it's pretty archaic. It's pretty primitive. There's massive overcrowding. It's just not what you and I think of when we think about prisons. I mean, extremely bad conditions. And obviously, prison is prison, and it's not supposed to be a nice place to be. But I think the lack of modern prison system, I think it has reverberations in the Thai legal system. In other words, it's you get weird situations where it affects the rule of law. For example, a lot of people of certain social status, they almost always get out of going to prison, and part of it is that there's just there's just this understanding that the prison is actually horrible. We can't send someone like you to prison because
I see. Okay. Because the prison is so bad
because it's actually not humanitarian. It's like you're gonna be crowded into a cell with 30 other random people. So to me, it creates a two-tiered system. So the people that end up in Thai prison tend to be people from, economically disadvantaged or socially disadvantaged parts of society. I want to be able to send anyone to prison, and I think to do that, you need to raise the standard of the prison. And in other words, whether you're a very poor person, a very rich person, come from a good family, a poor family, the bottom line is there should be kind of just a prison that you could send anyone to, and you're not violating their rights. You are punishing them. Obviously, prisons take away people's freedom by definition, but that's really all they should do. They should take away people's freedom. They shouldn't take away people's dignity, and you shouldn't be cramming people into crowded cells and unsanitary conditions.
So now prison, like going to prison, is already punishment, but the fact that it's not just prison, but it's a Thai prison, is almost like punitive damage on top of that.
That's right. And I know there's people who will say, "Who cares? It should be horrible. It should be gross." But those people are wrong. That they're wrong. That they're just wrong. When your punishment is your freedom is taken away for a certain period of time, and there's obviously other restrictions. It's not literally just your physical freedom. There's other issues being in prison, but it shouldn't be like degrading and humiliating beyond the fact that you're in prison. So I think this is the key. To make the rule of law work, it's actually a fairly complex system. It's like it is almost like a big machine with different moving parts. And one of the moving parts is the actual punishment scheme has to be just. It's still punishment, but it has to be just punishment. So I would this might even be the first thing I would do on day one, is I would start construction on like a massive modern prison. I know that actually makes me really sound like a tyrant, on day one, Prime Minister Ed builds a giant prison. It makes me sound like
we're going to change the name from prison to camps.
That's right. You're right.
Yeah. So,
but no, I think this is a very important reform that has to happen in the Thai legal system, in my opinion.
Interesting. I know. I never would have thought of that, but I guess it wouldn't make things worse.
Right.
And countries, a lot of Nordic countries, their prison systems are
famously
well organized. And
if there's one thing I never hear about in Thailand, is prison reform, the improvement of the prison system.
Right.
I've never heard anyone no one ever talks about it. Like, we need to improve.
But when you think of countries like the Nordic countries, they have really nice prisons, but their focus is on reform and rehabilitation.
Well, yeah, I mean that's part of it, but it's just, here there's just massive overcrowding, and it's just.
Right.
I don't know.
Right.
It's I think it creates other problems in the legal system.
Right, and prisons are so bad in Thailand that they've actually made movies about how bad the prisons are. Yeah. So interesting. Okay, I don't disagree with that.
All right, I'm going to hit you with one that I think you'll probably agree. And this might be a little bit fantastical, and I haven't done the really proper research, but we have mentioned before, I love the idea of a Thai canal, what is known as the Kra Canal Project. I love this idea of having a canal that cuts across the narrowest band of Thailand, which is not really in the deep south, but it's kind of south of Hua Hin, kind of just after the end of Burma. So Burma kind of strings down. There's like a long, thin part of Burma that goes south, and then just after that is the narrowest part of the Thai peninsula, and I would just slice right through that. I like the Kra Canal thing. This would be day 1 or day 2. I don't care how much it costs. A couple $100 billion. Let's do it.
Get it done. Interesting. There's a lot of pluses and negatives to that. I can see the points of both sides, but you can't stop progress.
I would do it.
Sure,
I mean, I think that these, in general, I'm a big fan of these big infrastructure projects. I think, as a lefty, I think it stimulates the economy. It creates a ton of jobs. And that I think that a lot of the opposition to this canal project, it comes from outside forces like Singapore. I think a Panama-like canal through Thailand, I think it's geopolitically, maybe not an earthquake, but it's geopolitically significant. And it would be Thailand, I think, flexing its muscle a little bit, which they should do more. So I would do it. I would do the Kra Canal thing for sure.
Interesting, man. You have put a lot of thought into this. Yeah, that would be interesting to see how it turns out. And yeah, especially in Singapore, Malaysia, those countries that are getting a lot of benefits from
that's right
from ships passing through the Strait of Malacca would be very interested in what's happening up here.
That's right. I would do that in a second. What else do I got? Okay, here's something that might be a little bit controversial, but you got to give me a second to explain myself. I would make English the official second language of Thailand.
Ooh, that's
now we got to be we got to be precise with this. I would make English the official second language. I wouldn't make it the second official language, if that makes sense. Like, in other words, Thailand is for Thai people, Thailand is for Thai language, and Thai language has to come first. So I'm not saying that English should be put on. English should not be put on par with Thai. That's ridiculous. But I think it should be the official second language. And the only reason I want to do this is to improve the quality of English language teaching throughout the country. So when I say I think it should be the second language, I'm not saying that I think every sign in the country must have Thai and English or something stupid like that, or that every government document must be in Thai and English. I'm not putting them on equal footing. No way. But I am saying that I think that Thai people are hurt when it comes to international competitiveness because of their English language skills. It's a little bit of a tricky problem. I think Thailand is very good when it comes to having just maybe very basic English. Random taxi drivers who didn't graduate from high school have basic English. So, so that's not bad. But for educated Thais who want to compete for international jobs, I think it's a huge weakness. It's a huge weakness. And
but isn't English already sort of de facto the second language? Because almost everyone gets taught some form of English in school.
But the standard is low.
And if it's not,
the standard is low.
Yeah. But I think that speaks to sort of a more institutional failing rather than
you're right. I think we agree. But my point of making it the official second language is to get rid of, to blast through those roadblocks or whatever the institutional problem is.
I see. Okay.
So that's my motivation. I mean, I guess I could have just made my proclamation that we must improve English language, training. But I think making it officially the second language would do that, and maybe.
I see. Okay.
Maybe it would unlock more funding or make it more of a national project. Because I think once you get
it would give your proclamation some teeth.
That's right. I think we there's kind of a sampling error because we're in Bangkok and a lot of the Thai people that we deal with are educated and they've already gone to university, our wives and stuff like that. Are university educated people. And so we're like, oh, Thai people have really good English. But the average level is quite low. Even in ASEAN, we've talked about these rankings before. Even in ASEAN, like the average English in Thailand is not very good. You step outside of Bangkok and it's a nightmare.
Right. Yeah. Interesting. I like that idea of, I mean, anyone can say, we need to speak better English. Okay. How?
That's right. No, I'm,
what are you going to do?
No, I'm go hard or go home. That's what I'm saying. Make it officially the second language. And I think this would be Thailand just facing reality. I've had this conversation with my students. It's not fair that English is so important in the world. It's totally unfair. It should not be true. There should be, we should all be speaking Esperanto as our second language. That would be fair. It should be a made up, it should be a made up like common tongue. But it's not. So I think this would be Thailand just facing the reality of the world, which is English is just massively valuable, and they'd be doing a favor to Thai kids to make sure they have good English language skills. So boom, I would do it.
You know what I'd be really interested in to see if Prime Minister Ed put that in place would be the reaction of China and what they would do to try to sort of expand their soft power and be like, hey, that's an interesting idea, but hear me out. What about if Chinese was your second language? Let me tell you about all the benefits that you get from that.
Which are not a lot. Like I would have some responses to why that doesn't matter. But that's another topic.
How about we build the Kra Canal for you? Would you do it then?
We don't need that. We don't need them. We can get the Germans to do it.
Oh God! All right, what's next? I like it.
Number 4, another one that I think will be dear to your heart is I would invest heavily in the riverfront. I would make this a major priority for Thailand and for Bangkok in particular. I know Bangkok has some independence to a certain extent from the federal government, or national, I should say national government, not federal. But I think the riverfront is just woefully underdeveloped. And Bangkok is already a super cool city, a great place to live for both Thai people and expats. But I think Bangkok could seriously up its game if it invested heavily in the riverfront. And I mean massive billion-dollar plan to completely change the riverfront. I would change the laws. 100%. I would move a lot of those communities. And I know there's political and economic issues, but I would make sure people are compensated. And I would completely change the Bangkok riverfront. It has some cool aspects to it. You and I both like some things on the riverfront, and I cross the river every day when I go to work. And all I can think about is the potential that's there. There's just so much untapped potential, economic potential. So I would massively develop the riverfront.
Agree. We've mentioned it many times on the show. It's so strange that a city like this with a river like that, like any other city in the world, would have just massive development along the riverfront. But I would agree, but I would say that it must be balanced. There's a lot of really great stuff along the river that probably shouldn't be touched.
Sure. Yeah.
But there's also a lot that could be built near or around or on top of that.
Yeah. None of these things are easy.
Definitely.
None of these things I'm talking about are easy. They'd all be, this is fantasy world. This is Ed the Dictator fantasy land. So,
right. God, can you imagine the traffic though if you built a skyscraper in like Talat Noi or something? My God.
Oh, geez, that's another issue. Let's see. Let me give you something here that might be. I don't really have anything that's too controversial. I think most of these things you probably would agree with. What's next? How about I would make dual pricing basically illegal. And again, so this is obviously coming from the perspective of an expat. So, I'm not Thai, so I don't see the same problems that Thai people see. I see the problems that foreigners see. And I think dual pricing is just wrong in principle. I understand that there's some arguments for it. And what I mean by dual pricing, I don't necessarily mean that prices always have to be the same for Thais and tourists. I think in places like national parks that are supported by tax dollars, if tourists are not paying taxes, I understand the argument for making them pay more. But it's a little bit ridiculous for people living in Thailand and paying taxes. We definitely should not have to pay more just because of our white skin. It's just absurd. It's racist. It's dumb. But if I had my druthers, I would just make it the same. So even for tourists, I think just in principle, it's better just to make everyone pay the same. Like I understand the argument, tourists don't pay taxes, Thai people pay taxes. I get it. So, I'm open to some compromise. I believe in politics, so I might be willing to cut a deal on the dual pricing thing. But I think if I really had my way, I would just completely eliminate dual pricing. I'm not even bothered that much about the national park stuff. But when you start getting into things like government hospitals charging Thai people and foreigners radically different prices, that's just wrong.
Okay.
We've talked about some heinous cases where expats have just been charged triple what Thai people are charged in a government hospital. Not always, but it should be illegal. Yeah. It should be illegal. I mean, prices should just be the same for everyone, period.
Yeah, I agree with that. Mostly, I think I've got no problem with tourists paying a bit more to see attractions. But for those who live here and pay into the system,
that's right.
I think there should be a flat price for that. 100% agree with that one.
Yeah, if I would probably make it all the same, but I understand that if you're in a tax, not a private establishment, but if you're in a tax-supported place like a temple, I understand why tourists might have to pay more, but certainly not people like you and I who are paying. I've been paying Thai taxes since day one. Like I got lucky when I moved here, and I was working for a Thai company, so I have 24 years of paying Thai taxes. So yeah, I should not be subject to that.
Agree.
Yeah. Number 7, I would begin a massive water management project to prepare for rising sea levels due to climate change. I think there's two things going on. There's climate change, but then there's also just the fact that Bangkok's sinking, which I think is independent of climate change. So you have two things going on where you just have the city that is sinking, but then you have sea levels rising. And I think this is something that the Thai government talks about, but they mostly ignore. And I really think that the Thai government should treat this problem almost the way the United States treated going to the moon. It's like they should just look at this as like a national goal, like the Dutch solving flooding 500 years ago. Like this should just be, I don't know if I probably would call it an emergency. Whatever solution is necessary, it's going to take decades. This is literally a giant epic problem. Bangkok is a huge city, and so this is just, it's not something you can solve in 10 years. You can't.
The interesting thing with the Dutch analogy is when the Dutch saved things, they saved their whole country because the whole thing was underground. I imagine there would be a lot of issues around, why are you spending all this money on just Bangkok? What about the rest of the country? What about the other 60 million people that live in the country? That would be that'd probably make a lot of people angry, I imagine.
Well, a lot of other Thai people are not under threat. I mean, obviously, if they're on the Chao Phraya, they might be under threat. But, the bottom line is it depends on where you're located, how you're going to be affected by this problem. And of course, the capital is important, and there's the highest concentration of population here. But yeah, there might be other parts of the country that are affected as well. I'm not suggesting we should ignore them, but I just totally don't get it. I just don't get it. Every time I read about the topic, it just seems like Bangkok is doomed, and the government doesn't seem to be aware of the problem. So I would, again, this would be a day one thing, and I would just commit massive resources to it.
Interesting.
I don't know. And again, I don't know the details of what I would do, but it would definitely be up there.
If you want to see some really cool concept art, listeners, just search for The Wind-Up Girl by Paolo Bacigalupi on Google and do an image search. And it's a really cool novel that takes place in Bangkok in like 200 years in the future. But they've got some really interesting concept art that people have done about what Bangkok will look like in 200 years. And part of the concept art that I really like is this gigantic seawall around Bangkok that goes like all the way down to Lam Chabang kind of thing. But yeah, maybe something like that is going to be needed eventually. Better sooner than later.
Who knows? All right, the next one I think you are going to love. I would completely rewrite all the laws that affect expats in Thailand. The laws that affect us
Ooh.
are the laws that affect us are archaic and dumb. And I'm not just saying, oh, we should have it easier. I just want to bring us on par with the standard of other countries that are popular with expats. Whether it's Venezuela or Panama. The bottom line is the hoops that we have to jump through are just absurd. Things are archaic. This, but listeners out there, just give you an example of what I'm talking about. This is going to be a mic drop for this point. When I have to do my health checkup for my work permit, which because I'm a long stay person, I only have to do it every 2 years.
Okay.
But the medical checkup on the government form for the medical checkup, I have to be tested for syphilis, but also elephantiasis. Yes.
Yeah.
The actual form, the doctor has to confirm that I don't have elephantiasis. So this is literally a form that was created in the 1930s. I'm not making this up. The current form for your medical certificate, if you're a foreigner, was created, I don't know when, I'm guessing the 1930s. That's a good trivia question. When was that form created? But it's way outdated, just absurdly outdated. And so that's just one example of the just silliness that applies to foreigners. So this is a whole nother topic. We could do the 20 things I would change about laws that affect expats. For example, reporting your address every 90 days. It's just dumb.
Days, yeah.
It's just dumb. The law should say you have to report a change in your address. That's what the law should be. But no, the law says
that's a good one.
Yeah, the law says you have to every 90 days report your address, even if it hasn't changed. It's ridiculous. And at least now, the lucky bastards who are around today, a lot of you guys can actually do it online. But back in my time, I had to do it in person every 90 days. I did that for 8 years until I got my permanent residency. So for 8 years, every 3 months, I went to a Thai government office and filled out the same stupid form. And sometimes my address had changed, but 95% of the time, I'm giving them the same address I had before in person.
Yeah, it's a huge make work project, I think. And it's just,
horrific.
And like I said a million times, and I'll keep repeating the analogy until the day I die, I think Thai bureaucrats are kind of like sharks in water. They need a minimum amount of bureaucracy just to function. They need a minimum amount of paperwork. They've got to keep the systems going. Otherwise, they don't know what to do. So these things sort of help them maintain that minimum level.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of
totally unnecessary.
There's a lot of reasons behind these problems, but that's another show. But the laws that affect expats in Thailand are unfair and overly burdensome, and that is being polite about it. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. Number 9. I would change the Thai flag to the old elephant flag. I'm a huge fan. I'm a huge fan of the elephant flag. Now, there's been different versions of it. The one that I like is the one that's the most colorful, and we'll include a picture of it. But it's a white elephant, kind of in regalia, and I think it was used in 1915, 1916. It's just a really cool flag. The white elephant is a traditional symbol of Thailand. It's unique. Most national flags don't have animals on them. And I did a little bit of research, and it's actually quite mysterious exactly why Thailand changed their flag. I've read different things. Some of the theories I can't talk about; they're a little bit sensitive. But a common explanation is that Thailand actually was just mimicking the West. In other words, having 3 colors on your flag is a very common thing. Not every flag, but a lot of European countries have 3 colors.
Right.
And so a common theory is that this was the Thai government saw this as part of their modernization project. We're going to modernize. We're joining the developed world. We're a developed country. We got to get rid of this silly elephant thing. So I think there was this idea that we want to be like the West. We want to be like developed countries, and whatever. Maybe that was a valid reason back then, but the elephant flag is just way cooler.
I think it's honestly, a beautiful flag.
It's one of the coolest flags in the world. I mean, so I would reinstate the white elephant flag. It's awesome. I love it. Okay, so here we go. Last one, number 10, is I would change the official name of the country back to Siam. And this is something this is something I've thought about a lot. Obviously, the name Thailand, the word Thailand, is deep into the world's brain. So I'm not saying that the name Thailand should be outlawed or anything like that. I just think that the official name of the country should be changed back to Siam. And my reasoning is a little bit the same as for the flag. The name change to Thailand. This comes from Prime Minister Pibun in the 1930s, who loved European fascists. And European fascists were racists and ethno-nationalists. And so the name Thailand is actually a racist name. And I'm not being woke here. Like, this is not a woke thing. This is just a fact of Thai history, that the name Thailand, which I know is seen as completely normal now, it was created to emphasize the ethnicity of people who live in the country. In other words, it was meant to be anti the ethnic diversity, which is part of Thailand, which is part of Siam. Like, Siam is ethnically diverse, with Muslims in the south and, Mon people who were formerly of Burmese. So it's like the name of the country now actually comes from a fascist period in Thai history. And, I understand that you can't turn the clock back. So sometimes when you talk about these things, like, people say, like, well, times have changed. No one thinks of, Thailand as racist anymore. So what's the point? So I understand you can't turn the clock back. You can't undo what was done. But the bottom line is, these things are actually flexible. These are things that are created by human beings. So it's not a fact. It's a socially created thing. So if the name was changed from Siam to Thailand at one point, then of course we can change it back to Siam. It was Siam for 400 years. It's been Thailand for 100 years. And so I would just officially make the name Siam. Maybe the way that, it's not the same thing, but officially Burma is now called Myanmar, but a lot of people still call it Burma, right?
Right. Okay.
So obviously,
like, Ho Chi Minh City is also called Saigon, which I prefer, actually, because it's a bit more romantic.
Yeah. So people would still use the name Thailand, and Thai people can still say, I'm Thai or I'm from Thailand. But just officially, like in the UN, the country should be called Siam. I mean, that's what it was before they had a fascist prime minister. I want to be clear. I don't think the name Thailand is racist right now. It doesn't have any connotation like that now. I have no problem with the name itself. It's cool. It's fine. My only problem is its history and its genesis and where it comes from.
I don't know, man. Prime Minister Ed's going to step in and start messing with the name, the flag, the language.
Yeah. No, I'm telling you,
you got your work cut out for you.
No, this is the show. That's the name of the show. Now, I do have some honorable mentions. I've mentioned before that I hate the English word Bangkok-in. I hate it, and I'm a huge believer that people who live in Bangkok should be called Bangkokers. So I don't know if as prime minister I'm allowed to dictate English words, but if English becomes the second official language, or the official second language.
If history has showed us anything, is you can't control what the masses decide to call something.
I can't.
It's a fool's errand.
No, if I'm prime minister, if I'm the boss, I can do it.
Good luck with that.
We should be called Bangkokers. No, I'm quite serious about my top 10, and I know it's fantasy, but whatever. You ask my opinion, you get my opinion.
That's a really good list, man. You put a lot of thought into that, and now I'm a little bit daunted. Daunted, is that a word? I'm feeling that the time I have to come up with 10 is going to be a daunting list for me to put together because.
Well, take your time, man.
Yeah, I haven't put that much thought into it. Yeah, it's not going to be for a while, but I'll start thinking about it. I got a couple, but maybe not on the same level as you do. Yeah, good list, man. I like it. I agree with almost all of them. A couple of nitpicks, but pretty good overall.
Cool.
I'd vote for Prime Minister Ed. All right, well, let's do something we call Love, Loathe, or Live With, where one of us picks a particular aspect of living in Bangkok, which we discuss to decide if it's something we love about living here, loathe about living here, or have come to accept as something that we just have to learn to live with no matter how we feel about it. And this week, Ed, what do you got for me?
All right, this is a fairly small thing, but it's something that it just rubs me the wrong way. So I'm curious if you've even noticed this before. I feel that Thai people are more likely to end a phone call without saying goodbye than foreigners are.
Yeah.
In other words, I'll be talking to someone, we'll kind of get to the end, and then they just hang up.
Or they just go,
But I feel that foreigners, it's more common that you get to the end, there's a pause, you realize they're at the end, and someone says, okay, goodbye, or see you later, or bye-bye, or whatever. Whereas with Thai people, a lot of times it's just click. Am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong. And the first time I started hearing this, and I noticed it, I was like, what am I, in a movie? No one hangs up like that. That's ridiculous. And I used to loathe it, but over the years, I've sort of been ground down. So now I just live with it, but I still find it odd to just hang up.
Okay. I think we're exactly on the same page. I like you, I experienced this first a very long time ago, but I'm still not used to it. It just happened to me. I was talking to my ex-wife, and she just hung up. and it's funny, if it happened in
am I trouble?
Well, if it happened in the States, if one of my sisters did it, I would wonder if something was wrong. I'd be like, oh, did her battery die? Or hopefully she wasn't in a car accident. You know what I mean? It's like, because people always say goodbye.
Right.
So that verifies that it was intentional.
It's strange. I'm a live with, but not by choice. When I first started noticing it, I was very loath.
Okay, maybe I'll add it to my list. Maybe it'll add it to my list as Prime Minister. I'll make a law. You must actually say goodbye before hanging up any phone call.
To say goodbye. That's funny.
I'll become my own type of fascist.
Oh God, control yourself. Self-control.
Alrighty. A final thanks to our patrons who support the show. Patrons get a ton of cool perks and the warm, fuzzy feeling knowing that they're helping in our never-ending quest for cool content. Find out more by clicking support on our website. And connect with us online. We're Bangkok Podcast on social media, bangkokpodcast.com on the web, or simply bangkokpodcast@gmail.com. We love hearing from our listeners and always reply to our messages.
That's right. You can listen to each episode on YouTube. Send us a voicemail through our website that we'll feature on the show. Hit me up on Blue Sky at BKKGreg. Thanks for listening, everyone. Take it easy out there, and we'll see you back here next week. It's the problem with drinking sake out of a small glass like this, is I just keep refilling it. Why don't I just drink directly out of the bottle?
Because you're not a heathen.
You don't know me. You're not the boss of me.
You're not the boss.